So we are finally moving on to the next day. We are on day 6 now of Unit 1A. We've got essentially 2 days left, kind of. We're going to spend the next 2 days working on systems of equations, our systems with 3 equations. So we've worked on systems of equations with 2 variables, but now we're going to do with 3 variables and 3 equations. So what we've looked at in the past, and you don't need to write this one down, we've looked at something like 3x plus 2y equals 4, and 3x minus 2y equals 8. We've looked at something like this that has 2 variables. 2 equations, 2 variables. We have 2 unknowns. We said we could add these together and get 6x is equal to 12. Just add down the columns and then divide, and you get an x value that's equal to 2. And then once we knew that x value, we could go ahead and plug it into either of those equations. So if I plug it into this first one, that'd be 3 times 2 plus 2y equals 4. 6 plus 2y is equal to 4. 2y is negative 2, and y is negative 1. So then our solution to this was 2, negative 1. And that's what we looked at when we looked at solving systems of equations with 2 variables and 2 equations. Today what we're going to look at is we're going to look at systems with 3 equations. So a couple things to keep in mind as you do this. A couple things you need. You need 2 equations to solve a system with 2 variables. And again, this is something that really doesn't need to be in your notes, more just for general knowledge. 3 equations to solve a system with 3 variables, and n equations to solve a system with n variables. So if I have 4 variables, A, B, C, and D, then I have to have 4 equations to help me solve that. Okay. We've already worked with 2 variables and 2 equations. Today we're going to work with 3 variables and 3 equations. So in the first case, this is kind of what we're going to look at. So this question says, check if the given point is a solution to the system of equations. So now you'll notice that we have 3 variables, x, y, and z. So we have 3 unknowns. Because we have 3 unknowns, we have to have 3 equations in order to do this. Okay, so when we plot our points, we've got a coordinate that's an x, y, z point. And we'll talk more about 3-dimensional stuff and graphing all of this at a later time. But essentially now you are going to have 3 solutions. What they want us to do in this question is they want us to check if I set my x value equal to 5, if I set my y value equal to negative 1, and I set my z value equal to 3, does that one work for each of these equations? And if it does, then that's a solution. So that's the first step that we're going to do today, is saying, okay, if I have this, is this actually a solution? So we're just going to kind of plug and play. So in that first equation, I'm going to substitute a 3. I'm going to substitute a 5 for the x value. So that's going to be 3 times 5 plus 5 times negative 1 minus 3 times 3. And I want to see if that, in fact, is equal to negative 5. If it is, I can go on to the next one. If it's not, I'm done. 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. Negative 3 times, that's 9. Negative 9. Is 15 minus 5 minus 9. Does that work? Does this equal negative 5? It doesn't, does it? So if this doesn't equal negative 5, because this side is what, 1? Does 1 equal negative 5? No, it doesn't. And did I mess it up somewhere? I don't think I messed it up, did I? No, I didn't mess it up anywhere. 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times negative 1. No, I didn't mess it up. So this is not a solution to this system of inequalities. So what we want to be able to do today is we want to be able to figure out, okay, how are we going to find that solution? How can I figure out what the solution of this is going to be? And it's going to involve essentially elimination. Okay? We're going to take it from 3 unknowns to 2 unknowns to 1 unknown. We're going to kind of go 3, 2, 1. It's kind of how we're going to do these. Okay? Everybody understands how we can check to see if they're correct or not? If it's the correct solution? You're just plugging it in. And if you get a false statement for the first one, you're done. If you get a true, test the second one. If you get a true, test the third one. If any of them are false, it doesn't work. Okay? So now let's look at the next one where now I've got these 3 equations. So I've got R is equal to 4S plus 6T minus 5. I've got 4R minus 5S plus 5T equals 30. And I got T is equal to 4. So I've got an R, an S, and a T. I already know what one of them is. I already know what my T value is, and that's going to be the case for all of them today. You are going to be given today one of the solutions. The solution we're given is 4. So this is my R value, this is my S, this is my T. It's in alphabetical order. So I know my T value is 4, so I'm going to go ahead and put a 4 right there because I know that has to be my answer. So now we're going to use substitution. So if I look at that first equation, and I like to label my equations 1, 2, and 3. And the reason I like to label them is because I can just refer to it as equation 1, and you know which one the heck I'm talking about. Plus, it kind of works in my mind. Anybody have any ideas of what I could do to help myself simplify equation number 1 a little bit? Do we know a value in there? What do we know? We know T is equal to 4, right? So anywhere I see it.
Attention, please. Will any student that does not have an ID presently, please report to Knowlton Auditorium to get your picture taken. Thank you.
We know the value of T. So in that first equation, I can rewrite that first equation, and anywhere I see a T, I can replace it with a 4. Because I knew my T value was 4 right here, I can replace that T with a 4. So now we're going to simplify this. So this is R is equal to 4S plus 24 minus 5. So R is equal to 4S plus 19. Okay, so I'm going to put a little circle around that. And I'm going to name that equation number 4. Now I'm going to do the same thing with equation number 2. Anywhere I see a T, I'm going to replace it with what I know T is equal to. So here's my second equation. I'm going to rewrite it as 4R minus 5S plus 5 times T, but I know T is 4, and that's going to equal 30. Now I'm going to simplify. 4R minus 5S plus 20 equals 30. I'm going to move the 20 to the other side of the equation. So I have my variables on one side and my constant on the other. so I can combine like terms. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 20 from both sides. And now I have 4r minus 5s is equal to 10. So I've created kind of a fifth equation now. But now notice 4 and 5. How many variables do 4 and 5 have? 2. There's 2 of them, and there's 2 equations. Now we can go back and use 4 and 5 just like we did this whole week when we have 2 equations. So we're going to ignore equations 1, 2, and 3 for now. We're just going to look at questions 4 and 5. You're just going to look at equations 4 and 5. So those are the 2 equations that we're going to look at. I know that r is equal to 4s plus 19, and I have 4r minus 5s equals 10. They have to have the same solution for r and s. We already know what t is. T is 4. But they have to have the same answer for r and s. So what could I do?
Subtract 4s.
I could, but what do we know? What does r equal to? What does r equal? 4s plus 19, right? So if r is equal to 4s plus 19, what can I replace right here? I can replace that 4s plus 19 right there. So I'm going to rewrite this one as 4. I know what my r value is. It's 4s plus 19. Then I'm going to subtract 5s, and that's got to equal 10. I should never have s's in any of my work, especially if there's 5s involved. But now notice how many variables are in there. How many variables are in there? Just one. There's just one variable. So we're going to distribute. 4 times 4s is not 4s, it's 16s plus 4 times 19, 76, minus 5s equals 10. Combine like terms. That's 11. That's 11s plus 76 equals 10. Now what? Very good. Subtract 76. 11s equals, that's negative 66. Nice. Divide by 11. So s is equal to negative 6. So now I know my value of s. My value of s is negative 6. We know the value of t is 4. I think is what it was. 4. Now what should I do? Plug it back in. Okay, and I can plug it in right there. So r is the only one we don't know. That's going to equal 4 times s, but my s value is negative 6 plus 19. So that's negative 24 plus 19, which is negative 5. So when we write the solution to this, it's in alphabetical order. My r value is first. That was negative 5. My s value, was negative 6. My t value was 4. That's my solution to that system of inequalities with 3 variables. Okay. This is not easy. Any stretch of the imagination, this is not easy. And playing on your phones and not paying attention to what's going on is a bad, bad idea right now. Okay, let's look at another one. So we've got 4r minus 5s plus 6t equals 7. Negative 4r minus 2t equals negative 6. And you already know the S value. They're giving us the S value. The S value is equal to 1. So if I label these 1, 2, and 3, just to make it easy for us to say which equation am I going to look at first? 1, 2, or 3? 1. What am I going to substitute in there? The S value, that's 1, right? Okay, so we're going to do that. So that's 4R minus 5 times S, which was 1, plus 6T is equal to 7. So that's 4R minus 5 plus 6T is equal to 7. Now, at this point, what I'm doing in my brain is I'm looking at this other equation, this one right here. And I notice that it has 2 variables. My second equation has 2 variables. I want to rewrite this one so it looks like this one. So I'm going to have my R and my T values on the left-hand side, and I'm going to have my numbers on the right-hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and add 5 to both sides, and that gives me 4R plus 6T is equal to 12. Now, the reason I want to do that, this becomes equation number 4. If I look at that second equation, is there anywhere to substitute the S in there? It's not. It already has 2 variables. And notice that it has the same 2 variables as equation number 4. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to write that equation 2. I'm just going to write it right underneath it. Now notice, 2 equations, 2 variables. We ignore everything else for now. Okay? Get that all out of your brain, and now let's look at this. And now we're not going to use substitution this time. We're going to use elimination.
I'm not sure I understand.
I'm not sure I do either, but I'm trying. What do I have to multiply the bottom one by? 2. I multiply the bottom one by 2. So if I multiply this bottom one by 2, I'm going to rewrite the fourth one, so that's 4R plus 6T equals 12. I just rewrote the fourth one. And now, 2 times negative 2 is negative 4R minus 4T equals negative 12. Makes it easy. 6 minus 4 is 2, so that's 2T equals 0. Now, here's where a lot of you have an issue. And this is why you have to be able to read mathematically. Mathematically, this reads 2 times what is 0? 2 times what is 0? 0. 0. 0 times anything is 0. So my T value here is equal to 0. A lot of you like to put no solution at this point. It's 0. Because mathematically, if you read it, 2 times 0 is 0. Divide both sides by 2. 0 divided by anything is 0. But now we have our T value. We know the T value is 0. We know the S value is 1. So now I'm going to go back into one of these highlighted equations, and I'm going to put the T as 0 in there. So I'm just going to do the 4R one. So I'm going to take this one and go 4R plus 6 times 0 is equal to 12. So 4R is equal to 12. R is equal to 3. 4 times what is 12? 3. Alphabetically, R, S, T. R is 3. S is 1, T is 0. That's your solution. That's where those 3 graphs would intersect with each other, or those 3 equations would intersect with each other. Okay. Ready to try another one? You see, substitution is such a powerful tool in mathematics. Okay, so let's look at this one. We've got x plus 5y equals 12, 4y equals 12, and negative 6x minus 4y minus z equals 12. So the question I'm asking in my brain, is there any of the variables right now that I can solve for? Which one? 4y equals negative 12, right? I can solve equation number 2. We would label as 1, 2, and 3. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. I can solve equation number 2 because it only has one variable in it. So 4y equals negative 12. 4 times what is negative 12? Negative 3. Divide both sides by 4. So I know my y value is negative 3. Now if I look at the equations, I know my y value is negative 3. Which one should I deal with? Should I deal with equation 1 or equation 3? Equation 1. Because I know what my y value is. I know my y value is negative 3. So if I look at equation 1, anywhere I see a y, I can put a negative 3 in there. I could do that with equation 3 too, and we're going to it eventually. But I'd still have two unknowns. I don't know what x is yet. But if I put it into equation 1, I can solve it. And it makes life a little bit easier. Okay, so we're going to go down here. So x plus 5 times negative 3 equals negative 14. X minus 15 equals negative 14. Add 15 to both sides. X is equal to 1. Now this is kind of nice. Everything kind of works out, right? Because now if we look at equation 3, I know my x value, I know my y value, and then I can just solve for z. Don't have to do any of that elimination stuff or substitution stuff with two equations. So if we look at this one right here, and we'll write that down there, that's going to be negative 6 times 1, because my x value is 1, minus 4 times negative 3, because my y value is negative 3, minus z equals 12. So negative 6 plus 12 minus z equals 12. Combine my numbers. That's 6 minus z equals 12. Add or subtract 6? Subtract. Subtract 6. So negative z equals 6. What does z equal? If negative z is 6, what's z? Negative 6. So now this time, didn't have to do any of that elimination of 2 by 2s or so. Made it a lot easier. Alphabetical order, x is 1, y is negative 3, z is negative 6. That's your solution to this one. Can't emphasize enough how powerful of a tool substitution is in mathematics. I mean, you can do so much with substitution in here. This 4y right here, I actually could have just replaced that with negative 12. Substitution's powerful. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Doesn't look like it's going to be as nice as that last one. But not bad. So 6t equals 18. Negative r plus s plus 3t equals 5. And 3r plus s plus 2t equals 18. Beautiful night to cheer. and have a soccer and football games. Cross country team's bringing out the tent for the soccer team tonight in Winona. What do we do first? Solve for t. What's t equal? Okay, so t is equal to 3. Now what? Put it into the second equation. So we've got negative r plus s plus, what's this going to be? 3 times 3, right? 3 times 3 is 9 equals 5. Should we leave it like that, or should we put the numbers together? Put the numbers together. So I'm going to subtract 9. Did everybody see where I got the 9? So that's negative r plus s equals negative 4. Okay, and I'm going to put my 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to make that my fourth one. I'm just going to highlight it because I can. Now what? Plug it in on the third one. Plug t into the third one. We know t is 3, so let's plug it in there. We've got 3r plus s plus 6. 2 times 3 is 6 equals 18. We'll do the same thing. Subtract 6 from both sides. So that's 3r plus s equals 12. So I've got equation number 5 now. And now notice 4 and 5 are both 2 by 2s. So I'm going to, either of them is solved for r, either of them is solved for s. I like to do elimination. So I'm just going to put them on top of each other. And then 3r plus s is equal to 12. Now if I want to use elimination, I like to use elimination. Am I going to add them or subtract them? If I add them, does anything go away? No. But if I subtract them, something does, right? So when we talked about subtraction, we said just change the sign of everything. So all of those are going to be minuses now. So we've got negative 3 minus 3. We've got negative 3 plus negative r. So that's negative 4r. S plus negative s goes away. Negative 4 plus negative 12 is negative 16. You get r is equal to negative 4, 4. 4? Just regular 4. So we've got our r value. We've got our t value. I'm just going to take this equation now, equation number 4, and I'm going to substitute in 4 for the r value. So that's negative 4 plus s equals negative 4. Add 4 to both sides. S is equal to 0. Alphabetical order, R is 4, S is 0, T was 3. 4, 0, 3. So these are the types of things you're going to look at today in your assignment, okay? These are hard. The next 2 days are going to be pretty hard. Tomorrow you're not going to get anything that looks like this. Tomorrow you'll have something that's like a 2 by 2. And we've got a little bit more calculating to do. This is the last section of this. Remember, we are testing on Wednesday of next week. So we've got one more lesson tomorrow. We'll review Monday and Tuesday. I won't be here on Tuesday. Test on Wednesday. And then you don't have school Thursday and Friday next week, MEA week, already. Let's go. All right, the worksheet. I don't know if I've put it in.